Today's guest was voted by Rolling Stone one of the greatest guitar players of all time. In his two multi-platinum acts, Rage Against the Machine and Audio Slave, and now as solo artist, The Night Watchman, Sound Off welcomes Tom Morello. Tom, welcome to Sound Off.
Thank
so
you very
good to
much.
have you here, Tom.
Thanks, good to be here, man.
You know, known you now for about 13 years
Yep,
or so.
yep.
Now, in fact, I still have the T-shirt that you gave me from your hometown, your high school, Libertyville, Illinois.
That's right. Yes, I represent.
You represent, which
yeah,
is very
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. You were born in Harlem, New York, though, right?
Yeah, that's right. My mom and dad met in Kenya, in East Africa, during Kenya's independence struggle with Great Britain, and my dad was actually part of Kenya's first United Nations delegation.
He was a revolutionary, wasn't
yeah,
he?
When he was, my great uncle was Jomo Kenyatta, Kenya's first president, and and they were very much involved in the independence struggle. And then when Kenya became free, my dad was part of Kenya's first United Nations delegation. So they moved here. I was born in New York City, lived at West 146th Street for about a year. They separated. He went back to Kenya. My mom went to Illinois, and I grew up in a little town called Libertyville.
Which is right outside of Chicago,
Right outside of Chicago, that's right.
Now, you obviously loved so many different types of rock and roll. I mean, everything from Kiss to Led Zeppelin.
Sure.
You know what I mean, to the Beatles. Tell me about that experience as you got, like you said, you're 17.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and I was a fan of, like, metal and hard rock, and Alice Cooper and Kiss and Aerosmith were the bands that, you know, they both provided an escape and just seemed, you know, it just seemed like so much bigger and cooler than this kind of very limited and narrow existence that you had in the suburbs. But then it was really when I discovered punk rock music, the Sex Pistols and the Clash, that made me want to be a musician, and I felt that I had a place in music.
So tell me about your first bands.
My first band was a high school band called the Electric Sheep, and it featured also Adam Jones, now in a band called Tool. We went to the same high school together. He was the bass player and I was the guitar player in the Electric Sheep. And there were three bands in our high school, and one of them was Destiny, and they were the hair. Their hair was beautiful. It was feathered, and they covered like REO Speedwagon and Styx songs and Doobie Brothers, and the ladies loved them.
Yeah.
And then there were the Bad Boys, and that was Epitaph, and they covered like AC/DC and Sabbath and Rush, and they were feared, and it was rumored they smoked weed.
Wow.
And then there was the Electric Sheep, the kind of the drama club oriented band, and none of us had the ability to even play another band's songs, so we were forced to write our own. So from the time we were 17 years old, both Adam and I were songwriters, you know, and we had a whole set of original material, and everyone in school hated us.
And way before,
and our
look
band.
what happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. Where's Destiny now, people?
Yeah,
Where's
right.
Destiny now?
Rage Against the Machine and Tool, two of the most important bands who
It's
have had
crazy.
longevity and an incredible fan base. It's amazing.
There's actually this one vignette that I remember very, very clearly. We were doing some like program at the school, and Adam was teaching me how to tune my guitar. And we're on one side of the stage, you know, just awful and can't figure it out. On the other side of the stage is the guitar player from Destiny. He's really a talented guitar player for a high school kid. He's sitting on a school surrounded by all the honeys in high school who are just shouting out names of songs or commercial jingles, and he's like a human jukebox, and he can play them all. Me and Adam are looking over there going,
That's amazing.
but it all worked out in the end.
It sure did
It
work
all
out
worked
in the
out
end.
in the end. Drove west into the setting sun to seek a young man seeking his fortune in Hollywood, and it was a rude awakening. You know, I moved out there with $1,000. It was gone about the first 4 days, and had nowhere to live and nothing to eat, and couldn't get a job, and you know, it took a few years before I finally found my way into a band called Lockup, who signed with Geffen Records. It was kind of like a funk, sort of living color like funk rock band, and that tried to have hit singles, and we did what the producer told us to do, and we made a record, and we, you know, sort of took our shot, and we threw our spaghetti against the refrigerator, and it didn't stick, you know. And we were dropped, and every sort of record company cliche bad thing that can happen to a band happened to that band, and including like as we were being, the only thing we wanted was a 2-record deal. We just wanted a chance to make that second record to be like a career. Maybe we have a chance. We made one record. They dropped the band after that. We said, but it's in our contract. You're guaranteeing us a second record. And the guy from the record company said, Robert Smith is his name. I don't know if he works in the industry now. Robert Smith said, you don't have the money to sue us. And we went, you're right about that, dude. Totally right about that. In Europe, it doesn't have the same censorship standards that the FCC imposes on the United States. And so those songs and the videos that were with them were huge in Europe, and I was living in a squat in Hollywood, and you know, we were headlining these huge festivals in Europe, and I'd come home and tell my friends, dude, like honestly, I'm big in Europe. They'd be like, right, bro, over here we were opening up for House of Pain over here, you know, in small theaters. But man, it was very complicated because Zach had come from the hardcore straight edge scene, and I just had this horrible experience on Geffen Records with compromising in order to make records, and we found that radio stations were editing the songs. We decided we weren't going to edit any swear words.
I'm going to go right now to the Audio Slave experience, and tell me about the end of Rage the first time for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was Zach left the band in, I think it was 2000, and and at the time, I don't know that a lot of people had. People in the industry like even knew what Tim and Brad and I were going to do. At one point, it was suggested to us by a handler that we become Macy Gray's backup band. No kidding. And no disrespect to Macy Gray.
No,
but I'm like,
I think Macy's
this is
great,
like
but it's just like
75% of Rage Against the Machine, and we're like, well, maybe we'll figure out what we'll do on our own.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had a few #1 albums.
Ozzy's backup band stuff. I don't think that I think they thought that maybe we weren't going to be able to figure something out. So we sat down and had a lot of good brainstorming sessions with our friend and producer Rick Rubin, and the idea of playing with Chris Cornell was top on our list, and we're huge. One of the things that Rage Against the Machine was a very tumultuous band, but one of the things we always agreed on was Bad Motorfinger.
It's amazing, Tom. Well, you've had an incredible career, and it continues. It's great. Anyway, congratulations on the Night Watchman stuff.
Thank you very much.
It's great to finally have you on the show, Tom.
Yes, at long last, here we are. Yeah,
you know what I mean? And we've been friends for about 13 years, so it's just great to see all the things that you've done. And I appreciate you coming by.
Congratulations on your show, and thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you, Tom.